We just got reported to the FAA again. Good morning, Chris and Sarah. I'm investigating a drone complaint sent to us concerning one of your videos. This is the second time the FAA has contacted us, and this drone is starting to become a bit of a nightmare. So why does this keep happening to us? Are we on some FAA watch list? And why is this even important for you to know? First, let me explain. We've been flying our drone for over 3 years now. We're travel vloggers and we've flown in almost every state and several countries, even all the way up here. Cities, forests, beaches, you name it, we've probably flown it. Now look, we've made some of our fair share of mistakes along the way. But one that we were completely oblivious to was getting the Part 107 for flying our drone. Back in December of 2020, we received our very first call from the FAA where someone anonymously reported our video.
Even though our YouTube is sort of our hobby, because we make any sort of income from it, it is now classified as a business no matter what. If we don't comply, the fine is $100,000.
After that scary phone call, we decided to take a course by the Pilot Institute, and we passed with flying colors.
He passed. First try.
We were finally certified to fly the drone. From that point on, we were traveling the country and getting amazing footage of our adventures. Everything seemed perfect, so why are we bringing this up again today? Well, the FAA received another anonymous tip about us just a few weeks ago. This one in regards to one of our Hawaii videos. In fact, it's this clip here. It only took them a few days of that video being live for them to get in contact with us. So if you're ever curious on how long it takes the FAA to get in contact with you, not that long. The call was quick and painless. The agent asked for my license number and they weren't going to issue a fine. And they told me that they had bigger fish to fry, like this guy flying a drone over the Bengals game. If I didn't have the Part 107, this would be an entirely different conversation. So let's go ahead and dive into why somebody reported us and how you can avoid getting fined by the FAA. Now, we're gonna deep dive into some of the most common questions that we have gotten from our past video and what we'll probably get from this video as well.
As always, if we miss something or you guys want further clarification, just drop it in the comments and we will do our absolute best to get to those and answer if we know the answer.
And like we said, we are travel vloggers, and this applies to not only travel vloggers, but any sort of creator on YouTube. So if you are using a drone for anything other than just flying for fun, this will help you make sure that you're not gonna get in trouble.
But it's not just for YouTube. It's for, say you're a real estate agent and you wanna fly a drone to get better shots of a property that you're listing for sale. You need a commercial license. Let's just jump right into these FAQ questions. If you wanna skip to a question, the time codes are gonna be down below, but let's just start off with number one. Who is the FAA?
It is the Federal Aviation Administration. They run everything in the sky. They are the police of the sky.
Number two, how does someone report you to the FAA? So you've heard that we've gotten reported twice now, and you may be wondering, how does that happen? And we're not here to give you ideas of how to troll someone. I mean, good news is, with the Part 107, even the trolls can't take you down because as long as you're following the rules, you're fine.
Reporting somebody to the FAA is incredibly easy.
Too easy.
Really easy. All you do is you go to this website, then you fill out a form, and that's really it.
And it can be anonymous. While we don't know who reported us, we suspect we know who reported us. And then there's some people out there who say, well, how do you know anybody reported you? And it's not just the FAA randomly selecting videos. Well, obviously there's no way of actually knowing. And no matter how you get reported, you're getting reported and anyone is subject to being reported. But I will say that the video that got us reported the second time around was a hardly viewed video. I mean, we're talking like, I think it had 1.5 thousand views, so 1,500 views on it when we got the call from the FAA, which is not that many views for our channel.
So we either have a fan at the FAA or somebody decided to report us.
Which, I mean, whatever. Like, yes, it's annoying more than anything, but I think we got a good chuckle out of it the second time around just because we had all of our ducks in a row. Now, we don't encourage you going and just reporting and trolling people, but if you do that, chances are, if this video is working the way it should, they're gonna be fine, and your trolling is just gonna be wasting your time more than it is theirs.
And I know some people come at it from a genuine place of, you know, wanting to make sure that the sky is okay.
Absolutely.
Just like grammar police. You know, you want to make sure everybody's using their punctuation correctly. And I think that a lot of people, one, they get off on thinking that they know more than the FAA, or maybe like drones or flying is more of a hobby, and so they take it very seriously. So you have those people, and then on the other hand, you have other people who just want to see the world burn.
I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
The second video that we got reported on was in a national park, and we'll get to this in a minute, but maybe the person thought we were flying in the national park, and we were not. We had tracked our flight. We were not in the national park, but people may have genuinely been out there. It may not have been a troll who just hates Chris and Sarah. It may have been like, oh, I know they're flying in the national park and they're not supposed to do that. I'm gonna get them in trouble because they're doing something wrong. Some people, like Chris said, are aviation enthusiasts who are very determined that people abide by the rules, and for good reason, because flying, it affects a lot of people. It doesn't just affect the people in the sky, it affects the people in the ground. There are real reasons why people report to the FAA, so don't go around with a chip on your shoulder thinking that people are just after you. Sometimes they may be. If you make a lot of enemies, you're definitely gonna wanna get the parts at 107, but if anybody is subject to it, just know the rules. Who needs the Part 107 for flying a drone?
Anybody that is flying the drone for other than fun. If you are a recreational flyer and you just want to zip and whatever with your drone and you're just having a blast with it, that's fine. But as soon as you upload it to YouTube, as soon as you use it for something other than fun, you need to get the 107. And we'll get to some other discrepancies. I know some people are going to be arguing about like the weight limit and registering your...
That's the next question.
Okay,
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
That leads us into the next question. Do I still need the Part 107 if I have the drone that weighs 249 grams? So there is a drone out there by DJI that was intentionally created to be 1 gram under their other drones because you technically don't have to register it. But this is a common misconception when it comes to the Part 107. No, you don't technically have to register that drone as of now. They may change that one day because the weight limit, it's drones 250 grams or higher. But go ahead and clarify.
There's a difference between registration and regulation. You may not have to register your drone. Zippy-doo-dah-day for you. That technically means you don't have a driver's license. But as soon as you do something commercial other than fun with that drone, and it has nothing to do with weight, it has everything to do with the intent. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you do something, filming a wedding, filming a YouTube video, filming something other than fun, you still have to get the Part 107.
And I know there's a lot of hype around, you don't have to register that drone, and I'm not really sure what that huge selling point is to people, except for maybe privacy. They don't know, like they feel like they don't have to report to somebody, but it's a $5 registration fee. It's not much. So don't just pick that drone just because you don't have to register. You think you're gonna be able to avoid all these hoops. Because if you're doing something other than just flying it for fun on your property or something, you will need the Part 107. Can you fly a drone in national parks? Oh my goodness, no.
No, you cannot fly a drone in national parks, and a lot of times you can't fly them in state parks. You have to be able to look at the different air charts and what are no-fly zones or what zone you are in, be able to fly your drone. And that's one of the great things about taking a course, from the Pilot Institute, or just learning your maps, because then you're able to look at a map and say, I know what kind of air zone this is, and there's no question about it. Mm-hmm. So please don't go into the national park and film something with your drone, because 1, you will get caught, and 2, it is illegal.
What are the rules for flying the FPV drones? DJI has those virtual reality goggle drones, and they look so cool. I think I would love to get one day. They're supposed to be a little more difficult to fly, but still manageable.
It's like you're in the metaverse, but you're flying.
They could get all these cool angles, and price-wise, I don't think they're that bad. I think they're like $1,000, which compared to like the new updated Mavic Pro, which is, $3,000 or something crazy. It's not a bad deal.
And the rules are practically the same except for one thing.
So when you're flying these drones, you're wearing the virtual reality goggles. So you have to have somebody standing next to you, eyeballing the drone and making sure that there's nothing outside of the goggle view that you may hit, like a tree or something like that. Because you're always supposed to keep the drone in eyesight, but when you have those goggles on, you can't see. So that secondary person, like, so Chris is flying the drone with the goggles on, I'd sit next to him and say, hey, that tree's getting really close, you need to be careful. I'm planning to visit the USA from another country. Do I need the Part 107? This is one of the most popular questions we got on the video, is people who are planning to visit the United States from Europe or South America or Asia or whatever, and they want to bring their drone and fly it.
Yes, if you are from a foreign country and you're coming to the US, you can fly a drone here in the US. Now, the Part 107 rules still apply to you. So if you're using it for commercial purposes or anything other than recreational fun, you still need to apply for the Part 107.
And you also have to register your drone. You keep saying the Part 107 is for safety reasons. What exactly do you mean by that? And we got this one a lot too, where, you know, we kept defending the FAA, and I guess there's this long-running joke among aviation enthusiasts where they jokingly say, like, the FAA will call you and say, I'm here to help. And I guess in some places they may not be, they're just really strict rule enforcers, but in our situation, they were very helpful. These rules are put in place for a reason. While there will always be people, including ourselves, who think, oh, we're really talented drone pilots, like, we know what we're doing. These drones are practically dummy-proof now. I mean, but there are people out there who are gonna try and break the rules, whether that's flying over crowds of people, and if that drone just loses signal, malfunctions, you could be potentially injuring dozens of people below. So these rules are put in place because the FAA knows that people will always try to bend rules, and if those rules are not in place, then people are going to be a lot more likely to try and get amazing shots in cities or at near airports. So,
and people are stupid. Like, we're all stupid people.
If you're watching this video, you are way more intelligent than most people because you're taking the time to learn what you need.
Yeah.
A lot of people just fly the drone up and just...
We mentioned it a little bit earlier in this video, but there's a case of a guy who, good for him, the Cincinnati Bengals, you know, won a game, and I'm a Bengals fan too, but I'm not gonna fly my drone over an entire stadium of people because, just like Sarah said, something could happen. A propeller could get nicked while taking off, and then that thing could fly down, and then you're potentially looking at a lawsuit because your, you know, DJI Mavic Zoom 2 landed in somebody's beer.
Why is the Part 107 important? So the Part 107, the FAA requires you to have this test because if you're going to be flying the drone commercially, that means you're going to be flying it most likely pretty regularly, like we do when we fly our drone, usually at least once a week. By requiring the Part 107, they can ensure that you have gone through the process, that you have learned the information, that you understand how airspace works, that how wind works, how all these basic aviation things work, and then they test you on it, and you have to have a certain passing grade. I think it's 80%. You have to pass the test. So by having that certification and by certifying you, the FAA knows that, okay, these guys have a basic understanding. They've learned the process, they've learned the information that, you know, if somebody were to report you after you have the Part 107 and then the FAA calls you and they get your license number and see that it is valid, that, oh, well, this is an educated pilot. They've gone through the process. It was probably an honest mistake unless it was, you know, very blatant not. So if it was you were doing something wrong, you can still get a slap on the wrist and maybe a fine. But if you didn't do anything wrong, then they're just going to say, okay, have a great day, like they did with you.
Verbatim, the conversation with the FAA agent went like this. Hey, were you flying in the national park? No, I wasn't. I have my air charts and everything with it. Okay, cool. We have bigger fish to fry. It was great talking with you.
Well, they asked for your number too.
Oh, and they asked for my number.
Chris came running in. He was like outside. He came running in and got in our safe and like found his little number and then read it off. And they're like, have a nice day.
Literally, it was like the get out of jail for free card.
Yeah, it's because you had taken the time to learn the information. You had passed the test with a good grade. And he's certified.
The agents aren't trying to get you in trouble.
They have bigger things
They really do have bigger things to do.
They said that when they get a report, and they get hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of reports, they have to follow up on those reports legally. This is the federal government. They have to follow up on it. So it's nothing personal. They're just doing their job to make sure that you're flying safely. So that was Chris's 1.5 minute call with the FAA out of
Hawaii.
How do I prepare for the Part 107 certification test?
The best investment that I've ever done was buy the Pilot Institute course.
This is promoted, like this is paid endorsement. This is our second video about the Part 107, and this is the first time we've ever been sponsored on this video by Pilot Institute. We really genuinely loved this course. It helped Chris out immensely. Yes, we're not gonna lie, there are tons of free materials online. And we've had a lot of people come and say, well, I crammed for that test in a day and I passed. Well, you know, good for you that you did that. But if you want to be a good drone pilot, you need to be studying and learning it, because these laws are only gonna get stricter and harder. And the more you learn now, the better off you're gonna be down the road. Because this isn't to say that they aren't gonna put way more complicated standards out there for drone pilots one day, because I mean, drones consistently, they're becoming more popular, they're more abundant in the air, and the FAA is having to lock this down more and more. So study well, and we highly recommend the Pilot Institute.
When I first took the course, I thought I just need the answers, I just want to take the test and get out. And then while Greg was teaching and I'm going through each module that he has, I quickly realized, no, I need to understand this. I don't just need to pass the test, because anybody can pass a test. Anybody can get the answers and just kind of guess. You have a really good chance of doing that. But understanding everything that goes into it, the Pilot Institute does a fantastic job at that. And we were the ones who reached out to them. They didn't reach out to us. We said, hey, we loved it so much last time. Would you like to partner on this video?
Yeah, we called them after we got reported the second time. We said, hey guys, we're making another video about this. Do you guys want to partner with us this time? And they said, yes. That's sort of how that partnership came into being. It was a really organic thing. I highly recommend not just cramming for the test, invest in a course. We love the Pilot Institute. Yes, this is a plug endorsement for them, but it's quality. You guys know we don't just take partnerships on anything. It's always stuff that we would buy on our own.
Yeah, so there's a link down below if you want to click that. It helps us out and it'll help you out.
How much does it cost to get an FAA Part 107 drone license?
The Part 107 costs about $175, and sometimes that is dependent on where you're taking the course. It could be a little bit more or maybe a little bit less, but it's going to be around that $175 mark.
And it has to be an FAA approved testing site. So for us, I think there was a couple community colleges in the area that were on that list. Chris took it at a community college about an hour from here. But there are different FAA testing sites, I think at airports and that kind of thing. Last question is, how often do you have to take the Part 107?
Every 2 years.
But every 2 years, you don't have to show up in person to take the test. You can just do it online. This is a newer change. That is our second saga with the FAA. The first time we got the email and call from the FAA was at the worst timing possible, which I don't think was entirely coincidental. We had just moved into our first home, we were settling in, it was a few days before Christmas, and we got that call, and it was scary because we had no idea. We're like, what the heck is a Part 107? We just didn't know. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And for us, that looked like making a video about it, and today it's sitting at one of our highest hitting videos on our YouTube channel.
And we've actually used the money that we've made from that past ad revenue to go to Hawaii, so thank you.
We're not kidding. That money paid for Hawaii and then some. So thank you. If you guys want to keep trolling us and giving us reasons to make videos, please do so. I would really love a trip back to Thailand, or I don't know, maybe Europe this summer.
Yeah.
So that trip to Hawaii gave us yet another video to make about this. So we're excited to see, where would you guys like to see us go next? We're just kidding, guys. But seriously, sometimes things are scary at first, but when you do things right, you are trying your best and you're following the rules and the laws, it's gonna be okay. But if this is all new information for you, then go learn it, get the Part 107 if that's for you, and fly safely.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.
Be sure to follow along on Instagram and like and subscribe here. It really helps creators like us.